The encounter in the ice wasted. The cold wind howled across the frozen land. The sky above was dark and full of moving clouds. Snowflakes fell slowly, covering everything in white. Commander Rain walked carefully through the deep snow. His boots crunched with every step behind him. His team followed, 4 soldiers dressed in black suits. They were on a mission to search this alien moon for signs of life or lost technology. No one expected to find anything here. This place looked dead. Silent and cold, Private Malik checked his scanner. No signs of movement. "Commander," he said, "this place is empty." Rain didn't reply. He kept walking. Eyes scanning the white horizon, he had a strange feeling in his chest. Like something was watching them. Something hidden under the snow or behind the rocks. "Let's check that," Ridge Rain said, pointing to a small hill nearby. The team moved up slowly, weapons ready. The wind grew stronger. Snow blew into their faces. It became harder to see. Suddenly, Malik's scanner beeped. "Wait, I got something," he said. The team stopped. "What is it?" Rain asked. Malik stared at the screen. Movement? Small. Just ahead, they pointed their lights in that direction. The beam cut through the snow, and then they saw it. A small figure was sitting in the snow. It didn't move. It was wearing thin clothes, not made for this cold. Its skin was pale, blue, almost glowing, and its head was slightly larger than a human's. But the face? The face looked like a child, almost human, but not fully. Rain stepped forward slowly. "It's a child," he whispered, "or something that looks like one." The little girl looked up at him. Her eyes were big and purple. She didn't look scared. She looked tired, weak. Then she spoke, her voice soft and calm. "My mother will serve you," she whispered. "Just don't let us freeze tonight." The team stared at her. No one said a word for a few seconds. Malik looked at Rain. "Shocked, Commander. What is she talking about?" Rain didn't answer. He looked around. There was no one else in sight. No buildings, no ships. Just the snow. But the girl wasn't lying in the open. She was sitting next to a broken metal wall. Mostly covered in snow, it looked like a crash site. Something had fallen from the sky long ago. Rain turned to the others. "There might be survivors," he said. "Check that wreck." 2 soldiers moved to the crash and started digging. Rain knelt in front of the girl. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer. He looked at her hands. They were shaking from the cold. "We need to get her to the outpost," Malik said. "But what if it's a trap?" "Then we deal with it," Rain replied. "But we don't leave. A child to die out here." The team wrapped the girl in a heat blanket and carried her back to their rover. The girl didn't speak again. She just looked out the window as the snowstorm began to grow stronger inside the outpost. They gave her warm food and placed her near the heater. Rain stayed close, watching her. Finally, she spoke again. "She's still sleeping," she said. "She doesn't like the cold." "Who?" Rain asked. "Your mother?" The girl nodded slowly. "She is strong," she whispered. "She will do what you say. Just help us stay warm tonight." Rain felt uneasy. He didn't like the way she said that. It didn't sound like a request. It sounded like a warning. The door opened and the other soldiers came back. "We found something," one of them said. A pod, still sealed, with someone inside. Rain's heart beat faster. Was it the mother? Was she human? Alien? Dangerous? "Keep it locked until I say otherwise," he ordered. He looked at the girl again. She was now fast asleep. Holding a small piece of alien metal like a toy, the storm outside grew louder, and in the distance, something howled, deep and cold, like the wind was alive. Rain turned to the window. And for the first time on this mission, he felt afraid. The storm outside had not stopped. Wind screamed across the base. The walls of the outpost shook. Snow piled higher against the windows. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. Commander Rain stood near the sealed door of the cargo room. Behind that door was the pod. Inside the pod was the girl's mother, or something that called itself a mother. Rain looked at the little alien girl sleeping by the heater. Her name was still unknown, but her presence felt heavy. Like she brought something else with her. Something invisible. Something cold. Private Malik came up beside him. "Sir," he said, "the pod is opening slowly. No alarms, no defense systems." Rain nodded. "Keep your weapons low, but ready." They entered the room together. The pod's surface was cracked and old, covered in frost. Steam hissed as the door slid open. Inside, lying still, was a tall woman. Her skin was also pale blue like the child. Her hair dark and shiny like metal. She opened her eyes, and Rain froze. Her eyes were completely silver. No whites, no pupils, just mirrors, like she could see everything at once. She sat up without speaking. Rain raised his hand. "Stay calm. You're safe," he said. "You're on a human research base." The woman blinked slowly. Then she bowed her head. Not a small nod, a full low bow, like a servant. "I understand." She said softly, "My daughter brought you to me." Her voice was beautiful, but empty. Like music without feeling, she stepped out of the pod slowly. Rain noticed her feet were bare. No boots. "But she did not seem cold," Malik whispered. "She's not shaking at all." Rain narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman looked at him. "I am no one," she said. "Use me as you wish." That answer made the whole room feel colder. Rain clenched his jaw. "No, I'm not here to use anyone. We just want answers." She looked confused for a second, then she nodded again. "I will serve if it keeps my child warm." Rain called the medic. "Scan her for any weapons or implants." The woman didn't resist. She stood completely still. The scanner beeped, strange. Readings unknown material inside her skin, but no weapons, no threats detected. They moved her to a holding room. She didn't fight, didn't speak. She just sat in the corner, waiting, watching. Watching later that night, Rain returned to the control room. The little girl was drawing something on the wall, using a piece of charcoal. Strange symbols, spirals, shapes that made no sense. Rain asked gently, "What are you drawing?" She looked up. "This is where the cold god sleeps," she said. "Below the ice, very deep." Rain frowned. "What's the cold god?" She didn't answer. She just whispered, "He doesn't like fire," before Rain could ask more. A scream came from the holding room. The team rushed there. Inside, they found the woman shaking, her hands clenched. The air around her was burning. Hot. The walls of the room were turning black. "She's heating up." Malik shouted. The temperature sensor showed dangerous levels. Rain grabbed the intercom. "Calm down." He shouted, "We're not here to hurt you." The woman slowly looked at the window, her silver eyes shining bright now. "My daughter is in danger," she said. I felt it. Rain turned back to the control room. The little girl was on the floor, coughing. The heater had stopped working. Backup power failed. Rain ordered the system reset. "Get that heater back online, now." He yelled. Within seconds, the heat returned. The girl stopped coughing in the holding room. The woman stopped glowing. The walls cooled down. She sat back down, silent again. Later that night, Malik sat with Rain in the mess hall. "Commander, I think they're connected," he said. "The girl and the mother like one body." "Two pieces," Rain nodded slowly. "They're not just aliens," he said. "There's something more." Malik whispered, "Do you think they're lying?" Rain looked out the window, snow still falling, wind still howling. "I don't know," he said. But when she said she would serve us, it didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a warning, outside the outpost. Deep under the ice, a strange light pulsed. Once, then vanished. Something had felt the girl's warmth. And it was waking up. The next morning, the storm had calmed. The skies were gray, and snow still fell slowly. But the wind was no longer screaming. The land outside was quiet again, too quiet. Commander Rain stood outside with Malik and 2 other soldiers. They were near the old wreck where the alien girl had been found. The metal structure looked ancient, maybe hundreds of years old. Its surface was frozen, cracked, and covered in strange markings. This ship is older than any tech we've seen, Malik said. Rain nodded. She said her mother would serve us, he muttered. But what were they doing here in the first place? The team started digging into the snow-covered wreck. They moved slowly, carefully. Then they found something strange. A large, round object made of black stone and silver metal. It was half buried in the snow. Cold to the touch, it had rings around it that seemed to move when no one was looking. What is this thing? Malik asked. Rain stepped closer. There were symbols on it, like the ones the girl had drawn on the wall. Let's take it back to base, Rain said. I want it scanned. Back at the outpost, they placed the device on the lab table. The girl sat nearby, watching. She looked calm at first, but when she saw the device, her eyes widened. She stood up and whispered, "No, not that." Rain turned to her. "What is it?" he asked. She stepped back. "Please don't wake it," she said. "That is part of his voice." "Whose voice?" Malik asked. "The cold god." She nodded slowly. "It's how he speaks," she said. To call his children before Rain could ask more. The scanner beeped. The device was active. They hadn't touched anything. No buttons, no wires. It had just turned itself on. A soft hum filled the room. Low and deep, the rings began to spin faster. Lights blinked inside the black stone. Then a sharp pulse shot out, invisible, but strong. Everyone felt it, a pressure in their chest. Ah! Chill in their bones. Even the heaters in the outpost flickered for a moment. "What was that?" Malik asked. The girl fell to her knees. "He heard you," she said. "He is listening now." Rain ordered the device shut down, but no matter what they tried, it would not stop. The hum continued, slow and steady, like a heartbeat under the ice. Later that night, strange things began to happen. The lights flickered again. One of the soldiers, Private Knox, said he heard whispering, voices calling his name from the walls. When Rain checked the security cams, there were shadows moving in the halls with no one there. In the control room, Malik stared at the frozen monitors. "We sent a signal, didn't we?" he said. Rain didn't answer. He already knew. Yes, they had. And now something was answering. The alien girl stood silently near the window. She looked at the snow falling outside. Then she turned to Rain and said, "It's under the ice. It remembers you." Rain's voice was firm but calm. "It doesn't know me," he said. "I've never been here before." She shook her head. "It doesn't remember your face," she said. "But it remembers your fire." Rain frowned. "What fire?" She stepped closer. "Long ago, humans came here," she said. "They brought heat. They burned his sleep. He has waited ever since." Rain felt cold, even though the heater was on. "What does it want now?" he asked. She looked up at him. "To wake," she said, "to rise." Malik entered the room, holding a data tablet. "Commander," he said, "the signal we sent. It's bouncing off something under the ice. It's not just snow and rock down there. There's something huge, buried deep." "How deep?" Rain asked. "Over a kilometer," Malik replied, "and it's moving." Rain's heart sank. He turned to the girl. "You said your mother would serve," he said. "Can she stop this?" The girl lowered her head. "She is only flame," she said. "She cannot stop the cold outside the base." The snow had stopped falling, but the ground beneath the ice cracked softly. Something ancient had felt the signal, something older than the stars. It began to stir, and far beneath the surface, something opened one giant silver eye. And remembered fire. Asterisk, the temperature inside the outpost was dropping. Slow at first, then faster. Heaters worked at full power. But the cold pushed back, like it was alive, like it had a purpose. Rain stood near the control panel, watching the readings. Why is it still falling? Aha, he asked. This system is built for polar storms. Malik shook his head. No damage, no error. He said, it's just not enough. In the hallway, frost crept along the walls. Water pipes began to crack. Breath turned to mist in the air. The alien girl stood barefoot on the frozen floor. She didn't shiver, she didn't complain. She just stared at the ceiling, as if listening to something above or below. He's breathing now, she whispered, not awake yet, but close. Rain approached her. What does he want? He asked. She looked at him with her deep purple eyes. To feel warm, she said, and then to burn everything that made him cold. At that moment, an alarm rang. The door to the holding chamber had opened by itself. The alien woman. The mother was no longer inside. Security footage showed her walking calmly through the hallways. Heat readings followed her like a trail of fire. Rain rushed to intercept. He found her standing in front of the giant black device. The one that had sent the signal. She placed her hand on it. The spinning rings froze. The lights inside turned red, then it went completely dark. The hum stopped. But the silence that followed was worse, deeper, heavier. The mother turned around slowly. Her skin glowed faint orange, like a fire just starting. Why did you call him? She asked quietly. We buried him for a reason. Rain held up a hand. We didn't know, he said. We thought it was just tech, just old alien data. She stepped closer. No one calls the cold god without a price, she said. He sleeps below, and now he dreams of walking. Suddenly, the lights across the outpost died. Complete blackout, even the backup generators failed. Only the mother's soft glow remained, lighting the room in red. Then they heard it, a sound like cracking ice, deep and far beneath them. The ground trembled slightly. A long, slow vibration. Malik ran in with a panic on his face. Commander, he said. We just lost contact with Earth Command. Satellink, frozen solid. Internal comes down too. Rain's voice was calm but sharp. Is anything still working? Malik hesitated. Just motion sensors, and then, as if timed perfectly. All the motion sensors triggered at once. All pointing down, below the base, below the ice. Rain looked at the mother. What's moving down there? She looked back at him. Something ancient, she said. Something your kind fought long ago. What do you mean? He asked. Humans were never here before. The girl entered the room now, holding her mother's hand. She spoke softly. You came before, she said, not with ships, but with fire. Your ancestors opened the sky, dropped flames from orbit. You tried to destroy him. Rain shook his head slowly. We didn't even know this planet existed until 10 years ago. The mother raised her hand. Her palm flickered like a candle. Some memories live in the stars, not in your minds, she said. Your fire burned deep, but not deep enough. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the structure. The floor shook hard. Lights blinked once, then failed again. Chunks of ice fell from the ceiling. And outside, in the distance, something massive moved beneath the snow. The girl began to hum a low, sad tune. Her voice seemed to calm the air slightly. Her mother joined in, her voice like a warm wind. Together, they sang a song without words, a lullaby meant to slow whatever was waking. Rain stood there, speechless. Malik whispered, Are they trying to stop it? I think they're the only reason it hasn't already killed us, Rain replied. The song faded. The air warmed slightly. But the cracking below did not stop. The cold god was listening, but he was not going back to sleep. The girl turned. To Rain, there's only one way to stop him, she said, but it will cost more than you want to give. Rain stared into her glowing eyes. He knew the next decision could decide the future of every human off-world, and maybe Earth too. The storm had returned. Outside, the snow fell harder than before. Winds screamed like wild creatures in the dark, but inside the base, the danger was closer. It was no longer just under the ice. Private Knox stood alone in the hallway. He stared. At the frozen wall, his breath fogged the air, but he didn't feel cold anymore. He felt chosen in his hand. He held a data chip. Inside that chip was everything: scans of the alien girl, heat readings from the mother, the black signal device, and the strange energy patterns from below. He had copied it all without permission. And now he had made a decision. "I'm getting out of here," he whispered. "Earth needs to see this." He turned and walked toward the bay. One emergency shuttle was still there, small, fast, and just enough fuel to break orbit. He never noticed the thin layer of ice growing behind him as he moved. Like the cold god was watching in the main control room, Commander Rain was reviewing the motion sensors. The shaking under the base had slowed. The girl's singing had helped. But the pressure was still there, like something massive was awake, but waiting. The mother stood near the window, her arms crossed. She hadn't spoken in hours. She just watched the snow, still glowing faintly, still silent, but every so often her fingers sparked like they held fire. Rain turned to Malik. "She's holding back," he said. "She hasn't shown us everything she can do." Malik nodded. "Maybe. She's scared of herself," he said. "Or maybe of us." Suddenly, the alarm rang. Shuttle launch sequence activated. The system said. Rain spun around. Who authorized that? A camera feed showed Private Knox inside the shuttle. The door was closing behind him, the data chip in his hand. "He's leaving," Malik said in shock, "with the alien data." Rain hit the come button. "Knox, cancel launch right now," he said. "You're not cleared to leave." But Knox's voice came through. "I'm done waiting for answers," he said. "I'm taking this to Earth. Maybe someone there will listen." "Knox," Rain warned, "if you take that girl's data and the device info, you'll wake it up for real." But Knox laughed. "I think it's already awake, Commander. You just don't want anyone else to know." The countdown reached 5 seconds. Rain turned to the alien mother. "Can you stop him?" he asked. Her eyes flickered, and she nodded once. Then she disappeared. In a burst of light and heat, she vanished. A second later, the launch bay cameras showed her reappearing beside the shuttle. The entire side of the bay glowed orange, metal melting beneath her feet. The shuttle door burst open. Knox screamed inside as the walls turned red hot. The chip in his hand melted instantly. The control panel shut down. The mother stepped inside the shuttle. She didn't say a word. She just raised her hand, and the air inside filled with fire. Not flames, but heat so strong it stopped time. Then she stepped out. Knox dropped to his knees. Shivering, coughing, she had not killed him, but she had taken everything. The fire faded. The mother returned to the control room. Rain stared at her. He could feel the heat still radiating from her skin. Her face was calm, but her eyes were not. She betrayed no one. She said, "He did." Rain nodded. "I understand," he said, "but now the cold god knows someone tried to run. That won't help." The girl looked at her mother, then at Rain. "He's closer now," she said. "He moves faster when we fear him," Malik whispered. "He feeds on fear." The girl nodded. Fear, betrayal, and cold. Rain stepped away from the control screen and faced the team. "No more lies," he said. "We don't send anything to Earth. We don't run. We stop this here." "But how?" Malik asked. The mother answered. "There's an old place under the ice," she said. "A prison of heat, sealed long ago. If you help me reach it, we may still lock him away." Rain looked at the map. "Up. There's a fault line just East of here, he said. Can we go that deep? With your machines and my fire, she said. Yes, Knox lay in the medical room now. Weak and frostbitten, he stared at the ceiling, muttering strange words. The girl stood near him. He heard you, she said quietly, but he won't speak again. Rain prepared the drilling crew. They had one chance, one plan, and maybe, just maybe, one last day before the cold god walked free. Asterisk, the ice was cracking, not softly this time, but deep, thunderous cracks that shook the entire base. It felt like the moon itself was breaking, like something inside it was waking from a long, angry sleep. Commander Rain stood in the underground tunnel. The drill had reached over 900 meters. Below them was the last layer, thin and hot. Beyond it, nothing but darkness. Beside him, the alien mother stood silent. Her skin glowed brighter now. Almost like lava under flesh, she was holding the girl close. The child no longer spoke. She just listened to the ground. To the breathing of the cold god, Malik came running down the tunnel. We've got power again, he said. But the scanners are showing something bad. Really? Bad. Rain followed him to the monitor. A giant shape had begun moving below the final layer of ice. It was shaped like a man, but far too big. At least 200 meters tall, with limbs that twisted like smoke. It had no face. Only a glowing mouth carved into its chest, and it was rising. Slowly, like a mountain being pulled upward. It's almost here, Rain whispered. The mother looked at the image. Her expression changed for the first time. Not calm, not blank, but sorrowful. He was our protector once, she said, long before humans came. But when we tried to control him, to trap his fire for our cities, we made him cold. And cold things forget mercy. Rain stepped closer to her. How do we stop it now? The girl looked up, eyes full of tears. You can't, she said, but I can. Rain shook his head. No. We're going to seal it inside that pit with heat, remember? The mother closed her eyes. There's more, she said quietly. There's something we never told you. The air suddenly felt heavy. The girl walked forward, bare feet touching the warm tunnel floor. I'm his key, she said. I was made to wake him or put him back to sleep. Rain stared at her, confused. You're his. What? His blood, the mother said, a piece of his power given form. We used it to create her. Rain's voice turned sharp. You created her to be a weapon. No, the mother said. We created her to stop him, when the time came again, but it means she must go inside him. Rain's heart dropped, inside. She will not return, the mother said. She must give him back what we stole his heart. The girl nodded slowly. I've known this since the snow first touched my skin. She said, I was just waiting for the right fire to walk. With me, Rain clenched his fists. There has to be another way. I won't let you sacrifice a child. The tunnel rumbled again. A wall cracked open. Heat blasted through. A glowing hand, made of ice and light, reached upward from the dark. The cold god was coming. The girl stepped forward, glowing now, not with fire, but with both heat and sorrow. The mother placed a hand on Rain's shoulder. This is her choice, she whispered. She is not just a child. Rain looked into the girl's eyes. He saw something beyond age, beyond fear. He saw something ancient and brave. I'm sorry, he said. You deserved more. The girl smiled sadly. I was born for this, she said. But thank you for showing me warmth before the end. She walked into the final chamber. The cold god's chest began to glow. Its mouth opened slowly, waiting, welcoming her. The girl looked back once. She did not cry. She did not scream. She only said one thing. Tell the stars I tried. Then she vanished into the light. The chamber filled with silence. Then a sound like a million pieces of glass breaking at once. The cold god froze mid-rise, its limbs locked in place, its body cracked from within. And then it collapsed, shattered into dust and heat. The mother fell to her knees, her light. Dimmed rain stood still, not blinking, not breathing. Above them, the storm stopped. For the first time in days, the sky was clear, but below that clear sky, in the heart of the ice, a warmth still glowed. Not fire, but memory. The girl was gone. But her sacrifice had lit a flame inside every human heart on that base. They had not just witnessed power, they had witnessed courage. And now, it was their turn to protect what remained. The cold god was dead, but the silence it left behind was loud. The tunnels no longer shook, the snow had stopped, and yet, the outpost felt emptier than ever. Commander Rain stood at the edge of the pit. Steam still rose from the place where the creature had cracked and fallen. Dust floated through the air, glittering like stars. But none of it felt like victory. Behind him, Malik was quiet. The alien mother sat near the wall, her light dim. She looked smaller now, as if the fire inside her had gone to sleep. "She's really gone," Malik said softly. Rain didn't answer. He didn't need to. The girl's sacrifice had saved them, but it had also taken something they couldn't replace. The team returned to the surface slowly. Machines were restarted, systems brought back online. But the people moved like ghosts. No one joked, no one smiled. That night, Rain stood. Outside under the stars, the sky was clear now, full of light. He looked up and whispered, "I hope you're out there. I hope you see this." The next day, a signal finally reached Earth. Command asked for a full report. They wanted details, scans, data, proof. They wanted to know what had been found, what had been lost, and if it was all worth it. Rain sent only one message. "No samples," he said. "No recordings, only one story." He attached the full truth about the girl, the mother, the cold god. He wrote it not as a mission log, but as a memory, because he knew people needed to remember her not as an experiment, but as a hero back on Earth. The story spread. People didn't believe it at first, but then the science came, seismic records, satellite loss, and the heat bloom on the frozen moon. And people began to understand something terrible had almost awakened, and something small had stopped it. The girl's words, "Just don't let us freeze tonight," became a message across Earth and the colonies. A reminder that even in the coldest places, warmth still wins. Months passed. The outpost became a research center. But this time, it wasn't about power or profit. It was about memory. Rain stayed behind, so did Malik, so did the mother. She did not leave after the battle. Instead, she helped build the monument, a circle of firestones at the edge of the pit, and in the center, a statue of the girl, small, strong, with her eyes turned to the stars. One evening, as the last sun dipped below the ice horizon, the mother stood beside Rain. Her voice was quiet. "She changed us," she said, "not just our kind, but yours too." Rain nodded. "She made us remember who we could be." He said, "Not conquerors, but protectors." The mother looked at the stars. "One day," she said, "when both our kinds are ready, we'll meet again, not as enemies, but as family." And Rain knew she was right, because what the girl had done was more than stop a god. She had built a bridge, not of steel, but of trust. The universe was full of dangerous things, old creatures, deep powers, ancient mistakes. But now it also had one more thing: hope. Humanity had fought back, not with weapons, but with honor, with warmth, with a promise that if the stars ever grew cold again, they would not face it alone.